Hello, I'm Racheal Wilding, founder of Edsidera and an ex-international school principal, passionate about rethinking education and one of the hosts of QTheVoices podcast. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined with Hugh Viney, founder of Minerva Virtual Academy, plus Anna, parent, and Bethan, a student of Minerva Community. Over the past year, Hugh and I have had incredible conversations talking about education and how it needs to be transformed into something different. Minerva even uses one of our Rising Stars Award as part of its enrichment, showing how far they will go beyond the classroom. And today we're going to be talking all about the effects, the impact, and how everyone's generally feeling, how different Minerva can be, and how anything I imagine online schooling could be is reshaped in this conversation. So today we're diving into what online learning really looks like, the highs, the surprises, and the impact it's having on young people. Let's get into it. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you here. Hugh, what was the exact moment that you really realised there had to be a change in education?
I don't think there was an exact moment. It was a gradual thing building up for me. I love school, and because I love school, I think it set me up so well in life. And I ran a tutoring business from 2014, and from 2014 to 2020, I started to realize that not only so many kids don't like school, some kids hate school, and then a few, even more kids. On top of that, school makes them feel ill. And the reason I saw that is because I was running a tutoring business, and a growing number of families were coming to us pre-COVID. This is 2015 to 2020, because their child wasn't getting on in school, and many cases were desperately unhappy. They were missing school, emotionally based school avoiders. In some cases, like I said, the most drastic cases, school was making them unwell. So I saw over a period of time that this growing number of students for whom traditional mainstream school wasn't suiting them. And this jarred with me so much because I believe every child should love school. School should not be a place that makes you scared, makes you anxious, makes you unhappy, and makes you ill. School should be a place, yes, that challenges you. Yes, that there's hardship sometimes, but ultimately, school should be a wonderful place for children. So in 2020, with COVID all around us, there was this surge in demand for homeschooling. And the problem with homeschooling with tutoring businesses, like my old business, is it's quite expensive. So MVA was born out of this need to serve these families for whom school did not suit, children who were neurodivergent, perhaps the school didn't suit them, children with mental health needs, maybe elite athletes and performers, or maybe families who wanted more flexibility. They were coming to us in droves in 2020, but uh, uh, homeschooling with tutors was expensive. So I decided to create an affordable homeschooling solution. And in my head, that was a cool school called MVA, Minerva Virtual Academy, which did things differently. And that was it. Summer 2020, I put the idea together. And the beautiful thing is, um, we've grown to 1,400 students in that time. We celebrate our fifth birthday this week. We're the fastest growing school in the UK. But the model hasn't changed. That idea I came up with, which is what I thought a good school could look like, especially for kids who don't suit mainstream, is still the same model we use today. And I'm sure we'll dig into that a bit more.
And I think that's it. What we're all looking for in the education community is for people to thrive. And that's really what we can see happening with Minerva. Talk to us about, the change and why you made that change and are you thriving in your new educational environment? Anna, I don't know if you want to start.
Yeah, we saw a huge difference in Bethan when she moved to MVA. She was struggling in mainstream school. Primary school had been okay, no real issues, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't the amazing experience that Hugh said that he had as a child, and I enjoyed school as a child as well. Um, but when she moved to secondary school, she started to struggle, started to miss school, and then by Christmas of the first year of secondary school, she'd really dipped. So much so that she missed most of the rest of that academic year. We took her out of school. She had some time off, and then went back on a very, very phased return to school for year seven. Year eight and nine were similar in the fact that she was on a reduced timetable. Um, and was in and out of school. So I was dropping her off, picking her up, dropping her off, picking her up during the day. Sometimes it was because that was planned. Sometimes it was because I'd get a call from school to say, "Look, she's not having a good day today. Can you come and get her?" Sometimes Bethan would call me herself and say, "Can you come and get me?" And she'd have, be in the toilets, unhappy, having a meltdown, and we tried to keep her in school, and it just wasn't working. So at the end of year 9, over the summer holidays, we were toying with the idea of doing something different. And then at the beginning of year 10, um, she lasted, I think, about 2.5 hours. And we said, right, that's it, end of. And pulled her out. And the difference now is huge. We looked into a number of different online options or homeschooling options or whatever it might be. And MVA stood out as being really different and really something that would suit Bethan in terms of her learning. She's bright, she's academic, um, but also the environment and the way that Bethan would learn. And the difference has been transformative. It really has.
And I mean, following on from your mum, Bethan, I mean, how are you feeling? I mean, obviously, we always say child-centered approach in education. It is all about young adults and children. How are you feeling now that you're part of that community?
It's honestly an amazing community to like obviously be a part of, and I'm just honestly I'm loving it. Like I used to think that school was something that you hated and you just got through it, but now I've realized that school you can enjoy it, and obviously there will be people who are in a mainstream school that have a good time and they enjoy it, but for me that was just not in the cards, and I remember just like thinking that God, I'm gonna have to deal with this for like I don't know how long I can deal with this for. And like you said that I was in school and I would be like I remember I would be sick a lot and I would like be I would feel really unwell, like sick to my stomach, and I remember thinking, am I ill? Like what's wrong? But now after leaving, I'm like you've noticed
Mm.
like I'm barely ever sick, and
Yeah.
it was just my anxiety like it was just really affecting me, and now I'm able to attend lessons. I think I've missed about like 3 days since starting, and
Get
that
you
was
from that
because
much.
yeah, that was because I was just very ill. And I I'm just loving it.
Which is, I think that's all anybody, as a parent, as an educator, that's all anybody ever wants to hear, that you are back to that thriving moment. I remember reading something, I think, on LinkedIn about Minerva, and it was a brilliant quote from another parent that had been in the, Minerva system and community for a while, going, I've got my child
Yeah.
back. I'm sat here in the kitchen going, why did I wait so long
Yes.
with all the signs? I've got my child back. And I've got to say, you're coming over super confident, and even in the pre-conversations, you're clearly thriving. One of the sort of myths, I suppose, of online schooling is, oh, are you having your lesson on a beach today? Or are you just turning up in bed? How is it? And I'm super curious to find out from all angles, how do you maintain that structure, Hugh? We've got children coming in from all over the world, different, backgrounds, different situations. How do you keep that, what I'd call that robust factor in the sort of school day and school term?
Yeah, really good point. Yeah, and we've got students all over the world. You're right. UK being our biggest country, and the UAE being our second biggest now. And that we launched our UAE community in September 2025. So we just had our first term, and it's been great. It's really, really taking off, which we love. And one of the reasons we wanted to do that is because until that point, all our community and school trips, which we do loads of, and in-person meetups and family get-togethers, were all in the UK. And I really felt that the 15% of the rest of our students, over 200 odd around the world, weren't getting that. So we put a sort of flag in the sand, literally, in the UAE, and have created a community here. So our kids in the UAE can also get together, parents can meet up, and we've done a few family days and things like that, and a school trip. So, on terms of robustness, it's a really good point, Racheal. So, first and foremost, and one of the things, and one of the reasons children like Bethan thrive is because we ripped up the rule book in how you teach. The Being online is not the most radical thing about us. That's just like one thing. Being online is not the most radical thing. One of the most radical things is our learning method, flipped learning. Our students learn 60% of the time on a virtual platform, self-directed learning. with video, audio, text. And for only 40% of the time is with teachers in fixed lessons. But I believe both are important. You've got to have real good teachers. And you would say I'm sure you've got a favourite few teachers and
Yeah.
etc. So teachers are so important, as you know, Racheal. We're just saying that for some kids, they learn better when it's self-directed learning. And Bethan will talk to you about this, because some teenagers, as we all know this, there's been studies on this, they do better if they've slept longer.
Yes.
They do better if they
Yes.
start later in the day. It's just a fact. So only Minerva, a school like ours, is enabling them to do that.
Yeah.
So, but being robust. So we look, it's really important, especially for someone, an ex-head teacher, like you, Racheal. How are we robust about the curriculum? Well, look, since 500 students onwards, and the appointment of our principal, Suzanne, who came from leadership in an international school, we have the structure and setup of a traditional international school. I like to say we still have all the good bits of school for our kids, or good bits of traditional school. And what I mean that is we have a principal, 2 vice principals, 1 academic, 1 pastoral, and 4 assistant vice principals. 1 teaching and learning, whose job is to do what you say and ensure the teaching is robust, listening, sitting on lessons, but also it's their job to make sure the curriculum is robust on the virtual platform. So we have those standards in place. Of course we do, like a traditional school. But I think the important thing in the academic model, which I've described, is the flexibility. Because how much do you like being able to get up at 9?
And
Oh, I
that's
love
it.
it.
I mean, I'm curious about how are you juggling your learning? I mean, is that a factor in that thriving element?
Yeah. So pretty much I used to wake up at like 5 to get up to school, and I would be in school, and I would be literally falling asleep in lessons because my brain doesn't really wake up until about like 9-10 o'clock. And once I started in MVA, I wake up at 9 in the morning, and I do I do some schoolwork before my lessons start, because obviously I'm in year 11, so I'm still in the UK timetable.
Yep.
And I start my lessons at about midday, and I focus more. I'm able to actually get my head in the space where I'm ready to learn. And then with the flip learning, with the prepare and shares and the develop and submits, I'm able to be more independent, because I've always had confidence issues, especially with things like maths and things, where I'm able to do the work, but I'm not confident enough to like tell myself that I can do this. And being able to do the work before and after the lesson, it's really helped me regain some confidence and like teach myself as well as being taught.
And I think in the world that we live in, we all know that once you leave formal education, being able to self-direct yourself in learning in all different manners of life, it's such a great skill to embed at this young age. And obviously as a parent, were you worried about the fact that there was going to be this almost self-led element, or is that what really attracted you to?
It was a bit of both. I mean, people thought that I was going off to do homeschooling and teach her myself, and I said, no, 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 that's definitely not going to be happening. So the flip learning was great because I knew that it was very structured, very much a case of this is what you've got to do, this is the way you need to do it, and then here's the actual lesson. So it wasn't really a worry because it was so well organized. And I knew exactly what the content was going to be, and I can see the content as well, and I can tell when she's doing things, when she's not doing things, if she's missed something. So the structure's there. As you said, it's a very robust system, so you know as a parent, this is what's going on. I probably know more about what she's doing now than when she was actually in mainstream school, because they'd go off to school. How was your day? Oh, fine. What have you learned? Oh, well,
Nothing.
nothing.
The eternal answer in education.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so you didn't really hear about anything that was going on. Whereas now I can actually see the lessons. I can watch the lessons back because they're all recorded. So I can actually watch lessons. So if she doesn't understand something, I can say, well, why don't you watch that bit again? Or why don't you go over your notes again? There's always that bit you can refer back to. So there was not, so the confidence, I suppose, has increased for me because I can see how well it's working.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Definitely.
just a case of here's some lessons, off you go, right, learn this, and you're in the dark a bit. It's been so visible, so well organized, and so open, I suppose.
And I think it's about, like you say, ripping up that playbook and letting people know about this is a fantastic extra option. As you said, Hugh, it might not be for everybody, but it may be for many, many more people that genuinely are quietly struggling as a family or as an individual student. I love the fact that Minerva has the value added. It's not just an online school, it's always got those little bits of extra. Tell me about some of the extra,
Yeah, sure.
those meetups, those trips, those conversations, the one-to-ones. Fill us all in.
Yeah, sure. We have one thing that I think every school should have. So we just talked about the academic model, the flipped learning, the self-directed learning. And I've never claimed it's for everyone, but for some kids, it's the best way. Some kids it doesn't work, like flipped learning and self-directed, but some kids it's better than any type of learning they've ever experienced. But the one key thing we have that most schools should have and they don't is every child gets a mentor. At Minerva, a special unique thing is, and this is and this is often the parents' favorite thing about MVA. It may not be yours, Anna, but it is often like number one or top
It's
three.
high up there.
Exactly.
It's high up there. Yeah.
And
And
every
how
child.
could it not be having a one? I mean,
Yeah,
how could
It's
it
one a
not
week,
amazing.
be?
It's amazing.
mentor once a week, one-on-one,
Yeah.
within a mentor assigned to you, and who you get a touch point with every week, and every 2 weeks the parents get a report, and every 2 weeks it's like a mini parents' evening in your pocket. Talk about touch points.
Yeah.
Talk about understanding what your kid is really doing at school. Not only is that good in an online school, because obviously parents might be a bit anxious at first about what they're learning and what's going on. Totally get it. So not only is that good to get that 2 weekly, fortnightly report from the mentor, which, by the way, yes, updates them on academic progress, but also on their well-being, which is most important. I would argue almost all schools could do that. That'd be a great thing. Any school could have a weekly mentor and a fortnightly mentor report. So that's a crucial part of our model. And Anna, you say, Bethan, your mentor, have you met them this week already? Well, it's our first week back,
I
isn't it?
have mentors on Friday, and I must say I love my mentor. I am so happy with who I have.
You want to shout her out?
Yeah, Millie Stevens.
Millie Stevens, yeah. Shout out,
She's
Millie
also my
Stevens.
wellbeing teacher, and her and her dog Arlo always join the calls, and so
There's a
does
lot
my
of pets
dog.
at MVA.
Yeah.
Students, staff, constantly bringing their dogs on.
And,
Yeah.
and it's a funny thing. I mean, my boys went to boarding school, a lot of pets in boarding
yeah,
school on
yeah,
campus. And
dogs.
sometimes it's the little things
Mhm.
that go a long way. So love
Yeah.
that, definitely.
Yeah, what else do you like about seeing Millie on your mentor on Fridays?
I'm
Yeah.
able to talk about if I'm like struggling with a specific thing. Like, let's say I have a chemistry lesson on Friday, let's say, and I'm struggling with, let's say, I'm not really clicking with the teacher maybe, or which can
Of course it
happen.
can.
And I've had this in the past where I didn't really click with a maths teacher, and I was changed, and it's really, really helped me. And that's
Did your mentor help with that?
yeah, my mentor
got
helped
it.
with
Yeah,
that.
exactly. That's what they
And
should be doing.
she changed the teacher for me, and it really helped. And being able to like not be afraid to like say what you like want to say in front of your mentor, because ultimately they're here to help you out. And I feel completely comfortable with my mentor. And like there might be, for example, like a mentor that you're maybe not clicking with completely. And I'm sure you can probably change your mentor.
You do, yeah, it
And
happens because it's so important. If we find out quite soon if it's not
Yeah.
clicking, we've got incredible mentors, and even the ones that are like the best or everyone loves the most, they'll have
Yeah.
a mentee that doesn't work for them, and we'll quickly change it. But
Yeah. But I
let's stick to the good. You
yeah.
love yours, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. You love your
But I
mentor.
was
gonna
I'm joking.
say-
yeah, I was just
No,
gonna
it's
say
cool, I
that
get it.
I'm in a group chat with quite a few girls in MVA, and I haven't heard a single bad story about a mentor. And pretty much everyone has said that, oh, I love my mentor.
I hear her chatting away. I don't hear what's being said, but I can hear laughter and chatting
To the
from
mentor.
behind the door
Yeah.
to the mentor about what's going on, and it's great. And it's having that reassurance as a parent that you've got someone looking out for your child on a weekly, fortnightly
And will
basis.
that
Yeah.
mentor go through with you, or is
Mm.
it
Yeah,
a,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
got don't get me wrong, after 2 years, one of them leaves. It does happen, you know what I mean? Or
yeah,
but no, the idea is that absolutely you're matched to your mentor and you're with them until you graduate. That
I
is
think you're
always the
matched.
aim.
I think you're matched in terms of interest,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Oh, you're matched in
Because
terms of interest or
yeah,
needs.
yeah,
So we've got mentors who are specifically neurodivergent trained or specifically mental health trained.
yeah,
Some are elite athletes.
yes, I
Mostly
remember
we'll
that.
have
Yeah,
ex-pro athletes.
yeah,
We try and not doesn't always be able to fit, but we try. And exactly that. And Anna, you talk about hearing Bethan talking to her mentor once a week, and you're in the kitchen or somewhere in the house and you're hearing her laugh.
yeah.
How often did you hear that? Previous school?
Not a lot.
Yeah.
and I think that's it. We all know the statistics of mental health and how that can impact, and the fact that you've got that other person just cheering you on in the
Exactly.
Yeah.
background, and that can have confidential conversations, or you're super confident to say, do you know what, it's not working for me. I want to do well in maths, but I feel that a little change here, and that uniqueness of being able
Yeah.
to not cherry pick, but be able to alter different things along the pathway must really bring confidence for you as a parent.
Yeah, hugely. I mean, the maths was more of a style of learning rather, or style of teaching, I should say, and learning rather than anything else. And so Bethan mentioned it to Millie, and they said, okay, fine, and actually sent some recordings of a couple of other options, a couple of the teacher options, and said, you know, have a look and see which one sort of Bethan feels would be a better match for her. And she said, yep, I like this guy. And it was switched across really quickly. Whereas in a mainstream school, you probably couldn't do it because it wouldn't fit in your block of learning or whatever it
Yes.
might be. Or it's a case of, well, suck it up. That's who you've got in your class. That's it, so you don't get an option. So you then flounder and you struggle because you don't have, there's a perhaps personality clash or a teaching style that you don't get on with, or you just don't click with, and then the subject is is lost really.
And it's
So
interesting. I was going to talk about subject choices and being blocked into a traditional timetable, and that'll just have to do, which is unfortunately quite a common situation. Obviously, the options at MVA are vast and varied, and so can you talk a little bit about that? Did you find everything that you were looking for as a parent, as a student going into GCSEs? Was there a bit of, oh well, that's not available? I mean, how does all that come about?
Yeah, I'll let these guys take over in a sec. But no, we offered, especially nowadays in our 5th year, the same amount of subjects that a mainstream school would do, particularly for GCSEs and A levels. Now our choices are really healthy. But yeah, but it's on top of that. We asked about additional things too. We offer after school clubs,
Yeah.
over 40 of them now. Which is amazing, from
Incredible.
AI to baking.
Yeah, yeah.
There's, I don't know if any Stranger Things fans out there, or
Bethan is.
yeah. Did you? We're launching a Dungeons and Dragons club.
Nice.
I know.
Have you heard? Were you one of the ones that requested it? By the way, this is by request, not because I think I'm being
But I
cool
love the
doing
fact
it.
that it's
This is
that,
student led.
but it's
Yeah.
that two-way conversation continuously
Yeah.
that seems to crop up. That could we maybe? Can I just suggest?
Yeah.
And that seems to always come up whenever we talk together,
Yeah.
or whether I talk to somebody involved. I've attended a couple of these open days with MVA, and it's always about that. It's a two-way thing. It's a
It is.
genuine community, not a just here you go. That's what you're getting. So
Parents
yeah.
find it's like a bit off-putting at first. They're like, "What? You're asking my opinion? You want feedback?" And we're like, "Yeah." And even when we apologise for things, what? A school has never said sorry to us. What? And I go back to the maths quickly. I mean, how cool is that? We're very open about that. You were able to switch your maths teacher, and
And
you
it
were
happened
happy. You were happy,
instantly. It
and it
happened
was the mentor that did it, and it wasn't that parent that's had to go in and feel like they're being an annoying mum and then talk to the headmaster, and the head's like, them's the breaks. It's very different. So but the more we talk, you realise being online is not the most radical thing about MVA at all. All these
No.
other things
Yeah.
are. Back to subject choices though, because actually in the UAE particularly, this tends to be, I hate to say it, but like, yeah, you're great for happiness, cool, and you've got all these enrichment stuff, but really, what are the subject choices and
what's the
academics,
core?
which
Yeah.
is okay, and that's reasonable. Did you find any surprises with your subject choices? You really wanted to do astronomy and you couldn't, things like that?
I personally I do drama a lot, so
Yes, yeah.
I can obviously do drama, but obviously I completely understand that, because how are you gonna, because drama is a very practical thing.
Mm.
But there are options.
But
here
there are
to
options
do
here
drama outside
to
of
do
school.
drama outside of school. which I'm not mad about or anything like that. Like, because like I would be confused on how you would do
Yeah, yeah.
like lots
No,
of
no, there's
do
limitation.
drama
But
and
do you
stuff.
do drama club outside of school?
We're just
I
restarting
we're
this week.
starting this week.
Yeah.
Great. There you
I
go.
used to,
It's really common, Rachel,
I've
with
done
our
some
Yeah.
stuff,
before,
Yeah.
like kids
but
doing outside of, yeah.
and one more thing about mentors
Yeah.
that I really love is they're able to see your engagements,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally I try and get like good engagement in classes. So at the end of the week, my mentor's like, "Let's go look at your engagement," and it's gone up from last week, and it's like a really nice feeling, like, "Oh yeah, I've engaged a lot this week," and it's just like, yeah, like I've done that. And engaging in class, I think some people won't do it, and that's completely fine, but some people love to engage, and I personally love to engage, and I love being able to have that like space to like speak and like speak my mind about like the classes. And I've never had a bad experience with engaging. Like, for example, in maths, I personally, I'm not, maths isn't my strongest suit. So I was in a math lesson. Well, this has happened many times now, and I've said, "Oh, I don't really understand this question. Can I go through it with you?" And I've gone through step by step through a question, unmuted, with my teacher, and it's really helped me to learn like a topic and things. And I think some people will be a bit anxious to engage, but I think it's a great thing to do, because I've never had a bad experience engaging, and it's always helped me feel more confident and feel more involved in the lessons and things.
Yeah, and I'm so lovely you say that, because we've spent so much time and effort on creating the engagement structure for our lessons. It's tech we've built,
Yep.
bespoke tech. My dad built, actually. I don't know if you know.
Keep it in the
My dad's the
family.
CTO, the Chief Technical Officer, MBA. Well, he did it with Jack Child, originally our assistant vice principal teaching and learning.
Yeah.
And it was like, how do we, online lessons live for those ones? We do this for the self-directed learning too, but in a different way. How do we measure engagement, particularly when we got students who are so anxious they want to keep the camera off,
Yep.
especially in year 11, and all students that don't want to speak, but they do type. And not nonsense typing, just like taking the mic, filling up the
Yeah.
chat. I mean, really engage with the lesson by typing. They they've been too anxious to speak or have their camera on, but they type a lot. We should reward them with engagement points too. So we've got this score metric which records camera on or voice or typing, even your emoji usage, and creates a score which your mentor can see, just like Bethan described, and go, hey, you've engaged so well in lessons this week. But your engagement in history was a bit low. I don't know if you do history, it's just like
I
example.
do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
your engagement in history a bit low. Is everything all right? And you might be like, yeah, I was ill that day. Or no, I just didn't understand the question actually. And can we go through that with you? This is using tech to
Also,
improve outcomes
there's
And
in a
private
way
chat.
that no traditional school can.
And that's innovation.
Yeah.
I mean, that genuinely is innovation with child-centered learning at its core, and engagement's what we all want
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And so to know that you can then have that engagement not just ticked off, but actually then be filtered back into, is there a problem with history?
Yeah.
Or is there a problem with, or I'm sure that you get reports on engagement, and therefore
Yes.
you're able to then have those conversations outside of the remit of the day. I mean,
Yeah.
engagement is everything at the
Yeah.
end of the day.
And it's instant feedback as well.
Yeah.
You don't. You're not waiting for the parents' evening at the end of term
Yeah.
or
At
whenever.
the end of
I-
term. Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
by the way, in
When it's a bit
September, you
late.
didn't.
They spent 10 weeks not engaging. Oh, right, you're
Exactly.
telling me that now,
Or you're
know.
getting
Yeah.
that report and
Mm.
going, if only somebody had bothered to tell me.
Yeah, in week
Or,
2.
and the confidence to be able to have the conversation after. I mean, it's obviously a topic that, is really genuine for yourselves. It's going really well. It is still one of these things that certain people will go, oh no, that's not for me. If you had that elevator pitch, I mean, how can you just get that flavor of how incredible it is for you over to somebody that might be a bit skeptical? I mean, what would you say? It must have come up in conversation with your friends.
Yes, I don't know if I had a conversation with my mum over the summer break, who said, when you first said you were pulling out Bethan out of school and going to an online environment, we thought you were bonkers. She said, "What
Heard
are
it all
you
before,
doing?
yeah.
Yeah, what are you
Fair enough.
doing? This is crazy." And she said, now a year down the line, we can see the difference in Bethan and see, she's so much happier. She's so much more settled. It's just hugely changed her.
And Bethan, have you had that conversation with friends when you said, this is it, I'm making a change, we're making a change as a family, I'm heading to the MVA community? Did you have that type of response from people?
I remember, so one of my closest friends, Roxy, I remember I was talking to her the other week, and she said that when I first said that I was leaving school, she was like, she thought that I was gonna have no like social aspects of life, and like I remember thinking that myself when I remember saying to my mum in the car, like leaving the mall one day when I was struggling in school, saying I don't like school, so I hate it. But what if I go to an online school, like or homeschool, and I just don't get any social life? Yeah. And I remember thinking that, and now I'm in MBA, and my social life is way more than it was before. I've got amazing friends, and I've got amazing connections, and it's just
Mm.
I remember thinking before, oh God, like I wouldn't have a social life. I wouldn't talk to people. I would just be in my house all day, just like sitting alone, um, just like in like my own little hole. But it's but it's completely different, and I think that's one of the things that we need to like kill that stereotype, because it's not the case.
Yeah. And I think that it is. I mean, you must have heard so many of these conversations, but that is it. People need to understand it's not what they think it might be. It's something so much more that could be everything for individuals. I mean, Hugh, you must have heard so many of these type of
Yeah. Well, look,
conversation stories.
when you asked about why did I come up with the idea, and I explained because I knew the types of people we could serve, and the kids that we could make happy again. We knew those people, and I thought, well, this school, there's got to be flexible learning. There's got to be but still teachers, fixed teachers, in classrooms, because teachers are so important. Then there's going to have to be a mentor, because that sounds cool, and it turns out to be like one of the best things ever. Then I was like, but it must have thriving community. These kids must be able to make friends. They must be able to see each other in person. That was my vision. And at the start, we were going to do one school trip a year. Now we do 6 a term,
Yeah.
you know, and after school clubs, we had 4 at the start. Like I said, now there's over 40. And because socializing is so important. Now, don't get me wrong, some of our kids, like Bethan, really good example, is going to go drama club outside of school.
Yes.
Loads of our kids do that. Of course
Yes.
they do. I mean, and some of our kids, who graduated last year, and I was speaking to one on, a similar thing like this, filming, and she just had all our old friends from her old school, and she saw them in the evenings and weekends. So we got to dispel that myth, like you say. And the
Agreed.
best example of that was, we do all these school trips, fantastic, in the UK, in the UAE, family meetups in the UK and the UAE. But we did our first residential trip last term, overnight, 2 nights actually. And Bethan was on it. The week before, she'd done a school trip in Dubai, and then you flew over to the
Yeah.
UK for the Resi trip. It was 30 year 11s. I popped down. I'm very grateful to Anna, our assistant vice principal, who actually ran the trip. I just popped down to say hello and see how they're doing. And Racheal was just amazing talking to them about it. Oh my God. So Bethan, a bunch of those kids on that trip are real friends for you, and they
Yeah.
live miles away, but they're your
Yeah.
real mates, and they were just like normal year 11 girls. It's so funny. It's
And
just so
and
fun.
did it feel, I mean, those
Brilliant. It was brilliant.
conversations, I mean, you've all
Yeah.
had the swap, right?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
all started in mainstream. Now you're in a whole different community, clearly all thriving. Were you able to talk about that and the change, and do you miss this, or this is so much better?
Yeah. Do you talk about
I've
it?
had conversations like that, yes. When I first joined, especially, we were all kind of sharing our stories of why we had come to MBA, and lots of us were saying that we just didn't fit in a mainstream school, and we struggled with like people, like friendships, and that was like the majority were saying that. A few people were came to MBA because they were like doing stuff on the side. They didn't have time for like they do training and things, and they didn't have time
Mm.
for a mainstream school.
So when you got together physically, which
Yes.
is such a huge important part of MVA, being able to come on off the offline, online, I've got that wrong, and being able to actually get together and have those conversations about you've all come from traditional schooling and now you're in the MVA community.
Yeah.
How did this conversation go? And were you all feeling that you were benefiting from the
Yeah,
change?
I haven't met someone that said like, "Oh, I'm not enjoying MBA." Like I had a friend who was in MBA and she's now gone back into a mainstream school and she's been saying, "God, I miss MBA." Like because she was in MBA for a year because she was doing stuff on the side and she'd gone back into a mainstream school and she was just saying, "Oh, I miss MBA so much. I just don't I'm struggling in here." And we all said to her like like if she wants to come back, we're all here for her waiting. And when we went to the residential, I met those new people and we were talking about our experiences with MVA and everyone was saying that I love it, it's great, it's really helped me with this and that. And I've for example my best friend Imi, she came to the residential with she had a few friends in MBA, but she doesn't engage as much as like some other people. And she now has loads of friends. And that's why the residential I find are so important and the trips are so important because it can create way more connections than like anything
It just
else.
cements that
Yeah, it just
friendship,
cements that
doesn't
friendship.
it?
Yeah.
And obviously, as a parent, you're given that opportunity as well to have connections with other parents within the MVA
Yes.
community.
Yes.
How has that been for you?
It's been good actually. There's an app called Class List, which all parents can be on, and you can message, and there's different topics and subjects, and so you've got perhaps like a year 11, um, like a bit like WhatsApp really. So a year 11 group, one about the exams, one about neurodivergency, all sorts of different topics, and you can have conversations on that and share information. And the trips have been great as well. So Bethan obviously did the residential one um, uh, in year 11, and then year 10 we actually flew back to the UK as well and did 2 trips in a week, one in Nottingham and one in Stratford, which were both brilliant 2-day trips. And I met lots of parents on those trips. So the kids would be off doing whatever they were doing, and we met. The parents could meet up in a cafe and chat. Um, and it was really good to get those connections, and I've seen them since. And equally, as Bethan said earlier, the virtually without exception, all of the parents I'd spoken to said that their children had been in a similar situation to Bethan, and just how refreshing it was to meet other people that had been through the same sort of experiences, and how much happier they were in MVA and in the community. And it was just how much it had changed everything basically.
So such a success
Yeah,
story,
hugely
totally. And
successful.
obviously MVA, there are those stories. It's also the flexibility. I know there's, young professional athletes or people like you say that have got things going on the side. Very, very innovative for them to be able to keep that parallel to whatever else they're doing. What next then, Hugh? What
Mm.
next for MVA? It's been such it's gone quite quickly and grown rapidly
Mm.
and clearly keeping up with the confidence of supporting the community. Results are coming in
Mm.
now and the results are going to plan as
Mm.
well, I believe.
The results have been great because we set off to be a happiness first school, and I was really confident my model was great for getting kids happy again in school. And I started to think, but what are the academic results going to be like? Because it is important still, and they've been great. I mean, particularly last 2 years. Last year we had the highest mark in the world for maths GCSE
Incredible.
EdXL, a girl, a neurodivergent girl from London. It was amazing. Got all nines and highest mark in the world for maths. I'm not trying to make any other year 11s nervous here, or am I promising anything to parents here
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that?
But
that
it
was-
shows the range,
it just
doesn't
shows you
it?
can.
Yeah,
Our method,
absolutely.
you can still get great results, and it's a good another thing. And then this last year's GCSE results, the same, like English and maths were well above national averages, having been sort of close to national averages above them, but they were well above. And our results for children with special educational needs or neurodivergent students were miles above national averages. So we are obviously doing something right for certain types of kids. And importantly, you're still going to get good results even with our method of flip learning,
Yeah.
asynchronous, synchronous. What next? What's the plan? What do you think, Bethan? World domination?
Apart
No.
from
Yeah.
apart from the Dungeon and
Yeah,
Dragons,
Dungeon
like, you
Dragons
know,
Club. That's the most exciting thing
absolutely,
this
that
week.
is.
D&D Club.
Yeah.
There's 2 other clubs announced this week, brand new ones, all student led. Well, look, let's go back to that trip. You talk about dispelling myths. There's Bethan talking about her friends on this trip from all over the UK as
Yeah.
well, and some around the world, not just UK. You've got that global friendship thing going on, which is
Absolutely.
super cool. Again, like value add. But dispelling myths about friendship. So many of your mates we were speaking on, weren't we? Like on the bus and when we were going around to the Eden Project. And I said, look, you know, do you feel like you've got fewer friends now you're at online school? And everyone's like, no, I've got more friends since I
Yeah.
came to MVA, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one I said about was about trips. I was like, oh, you know, what was your last residential trip like? Then I'm like, Hugh, I've never been on a residential trip. I haven't been able to go on a school trip for 5 years. They hated school too
Yeah.
much. Whether they were too anxious or did you remember some of them people were saying
Yeah.
that, Hugh, this is the first trip I've been on in 5 years. And that's an online school. And they felt comfortable, confident to go on a trip, right? Bethan,
Yeah.
that was interesting that friends were saying that, right? And I don't know
Yeah.
about your experience with trips, but certainly some of your friends were saying
Yeah,
that.
I have been on I think 2 residential trips. But I definitely struggled with like stressing out about like if there would be issues. Like I remember like each residential trip I'd been on and trips in general, there was always some sort of drama. There was always like gossiping and just like
This
just
is at
bad
your old
in my
school
old
in
school,
mainstream.
yes,
Yeah,
mainstream
yeah,
school.
yeah. Just to be clear, everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
And I remember that there was always I was always like feeling stressed and I would feel pressured because when you go to a residential trip, there's gonna be like a lot of the time people from, for example, like um like hotel or hostel wherever you're staying at. And I remember I went on a residential trip once and I had said that look, I'm not gonna be able to do this activity because I struggle with this and that. And they said like and they would get annoyed at me. And at MVA, um, you have the teachers and the people that you are seeing in these places. They kind of know like that like there's lots of neurodivergent kids. There's lots of kids that struggle with like mainstream school and stuff like that,
They're on your side.
and they're on your side. It's like they're there for to help you and for you. And it's like a really calming feeling, and teachers are so understanding and so much like I guess educated on this topic. And it's just amazing, and I think it should be a universal thing where everyone should be knowing about these like certain things, because it's so important, because like so much of the population are neurodivergent or struggle with certain things, and it's very important for it to be more normalized.
I think the difference is that sorry that schools always say, mainstream schools always say, yes, we are neurodivergent trained. Our staff know how to deal with certain situations, and yes, they might have had the training, but putting it into practice can be a very different situation. So, and you might have some teachers that are brilliant and some teachers that aren't. Whereas our experience across the board at MVA is that every single teacher has been understanding, has been welcoming, has been has adapted to situations. And I think also because they're all first name terms, all the teachers, it makes it much more a much easier way to communicate
It
between
brings down a barrier, right? The first
exactly
name.
between the staff and the students.
Yeah, oh my god,
Yeah.
How? Yeah. Go on.
it's so much better, because I remember feeling that like teachers used to act like they were like superior, and they were like like you're the child, I'm the teacher, and what I say goes. And obviously like they are more in control of things, and
They're responsible adults.
they're
Yeah,
responsible
so.
adults, of course, but
Absolutely.
it's less like almost like a competition, if that makes sense, like on how like I'm always right. And teachers in MVA, I've noticed, are like open to learning new things and realizing like certain things. Like yesterday I was in English language, and we were saying about how what because we were learning a poem called Disabled, and we were saying like, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you say the word disabled? And a few people were saying like, oh, someone who's like in a wheelchair, for example. And I immediately and I said that after being diagnosed with certain things, I've been able to realize that disabilities aren't always like
Visible.
visible, or then like things are like different, and it's not just physical disabilities, also mental disabilities and things, and it's just being differently able that I think. And my teacher was like, thank you so much for like, it's like unmuting and saying that, like it really it means a lot, and it's like important for us all to know. And teachers I've noticed are like more open to learning new things instead of just being like, I'm right, like
And
this
I
is what.
think it comes from what you're describing as collaboration.
Yes,
And I think
exactly.
there is, instead of that top down, and there is definite collaboration. 100%. Okay, we're going to play a little bit of a one word MVA game here now. How would you, so got to think of just one word to describe MVA in a couple of different categories. So let's start with a nice easy one. Describe MVA in one word when we think about the teaching staff. Who wants to go first?
Sounds weird, but safe. I feel safe with
Safe.
my teachers and people and my peers and things. I feel very safe.
Love that.
Welcoming.
Love that as well. Hugh, teaching staff at MVA, one word.
Best.
Love that,
Yes.
definitely. Okay, when you think about another one word answer here, when you think about the community as a whole, how can you describe that genuine experience when somebody goes, where do you go to school? Or where does your daughter go to school? Or who do you work with? Give us a description word about MVA.
Um,
We can come
kind.
kind. Hugh?
If you one word description about the community of MVA, I'd say real, because I don't think people expect that.
And I
But
think
it
that
is real.
that genuine factor
It
is
is
something
real.
that you should shout loud and proud about, definitely. One more, okay? If you were to recommend MVA to a friend or a family member, how could you describe the structure of the day? That it is different in a way. How could you describe what school is at MVA? It's maybe not traditional, maybe it is. What type of word would you describe to talk about the structure and what you go through in your learning?
Freedom.
Isn't that empowering? That's a good word. I would have used empowering for MBA.
Yeah.
I was going to say flexible.
Totally.
Oh my god, these are the words that I was gonna say.
There's no
Just lean in and say
pressure.
freedom.
Yeah. Freedom.
I love it, totally. Obviously we could talk about this all day, clearly. Passionate topic. Clearly can see how happy you are, Bethan, and how confident, and to think that not long ago that you really were possibly struggling in school, you just don't come over in that way at all. Clearly you're happy,
Yes.
confident with
Yep.
the choice that you've made as a
Definitely,
parent.
definitely.
And Hugh, it's always a pleasure, to talk about MVA, to talk about where it is now. And we know that it will be in a different place, more innovation coming, more meetups, more link ups, and being there as an absolute genuine option for parents and students. It's a running parallel. And I think it's just about breaking up the rule book, the myths, and making sure that we can shout loud and proud and start those conversations about MVA, hybrid learning, online learning. It's an option for anyone and everyone. Any final words on the MVA conversation at QTheVoices this morning?
One regret. I wish I'd done it sooner. I wish we'd moved sooner, because we wouldn't have had 3 years of real struggles. I think you said the same, didn't you, Bethan, on the way
Yeah.
here?
I also have one regret. It's like similar to you, but I remember I regret my old self like thinking these like stereotypical things like, oh, I won't have friendships, I won't like have these like real life experiences. And I regret thinking that, because I regret not doing it sooner as well, because I've thrived.
Yeah.
And I think it's always we can always look back, can't we? But we are where we are, and we make the decisions when we do. I think it's about sharing that experience, and being able to say we were here, but now we're here.
It's
let me tell
changing.
you about it
Yeah.
in any way I can. Hugh?
Well, look, firstly, thank you guys for being on here. And Rachel, can you confirm we didn't pay them to do this?
Absolutely no
No,
payment.
They'll
no
be
No
like, what?
payment.
Hang
No,
on a minute.
no deduction in school fee.
And no
Yeah,
script,
exactly.
no
Yeah.
Yeah,
script.
No
I'll tell your
script.
teachers to give you A's.
Yeah.
Look, it doesn't get old. We don't have a conversation in a podcast studio like this every week,
Yeah.
but we do have these conversations every week with parents and kids. And you asked me about what's the plans for the future. Well, how many kids out there are still not enjoying school? How many kids out there could be thriving in an alternative type of school experience? And the answer is hundreds of thousands. So we will not stop growing, but we will also always grow at a measured pace and never to the detriment of our model and experience. So just evidence of that, our growth has always been turned into investment in the school, never reductions or cuts.
Yes.
We've always invested in more teachers, actually increased the amount of lessons we had. We used to have fewer lessons, got more of them. Mentors used to be every fortnight, they're now every week. Every time we grow, we do more into the school to improve the school. Class sizes remain the same, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And that we'll always stick to that. Clubs, so I mean, we just keep building more free clubs at the school because it just makes us a better place to be. We've invested this year in an assistant vice principal for student development, right? Whose only job is enrichment.
Yeah.
More clubs, more trips. She organised. That's Anna, who organised.
Yeah.
Who organised the residential. More opportunities for enrichment and more competitions because that's so important in inter-school competitions against other schools. So the dream is to keep going because more kids need us around the world, right? And we know that. And to continue to serve the types of kids that thrive at MVA, whether that be their neurodivergent need, mental health need, or athlete and performer need, but also to serve the growing number of families, maybe 200, over 200 of them now, who aren't coming to MVA because of their child's need. They're coming to us because they like the sound of that.
Yeah.
They don't have a particular need. They've heard all the things we talk about and they go, that sounds cool anyway. And these are families, we call it the lifestyle category. They're coming to MVA because they want one thing that currently mainstream school is not giving them. They want freedom. And all the other cool stuff, kindness,
exactly.
kind teachers,
That's it.
but flexibility. They just want their freedom back. And this is a growing category for us, particularly in the Middle East. And we will continue to serve and serve those families too. I want to be a school for all, ultimately. That creates the best school environment when you've got different types of kids from different types of backgrounds. So that's the dream and that's the mission. And, check in a year and see how we're getting on.
100%.
But so far, so good.
100%. Well, thank you, everybody, for having the conversation. Over to you, Bethan, for a
I
final
just
word.
wanted to say one thing, that if there's that part of you that's just like screaming at you, like, I want to get out of here, like when you're in a mainstream school, I can't do this anymore. Like, there's always that light at the end of the tunnel, and like MVA is always here coming like with open arms, because of the fact that they understand and they're here for you. And I am proud of myself, my old self, for deciding to make the switch, because I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't here and in MVA.
And I think it's be bold enough to have that conversation, be bold enough to go with an innovative choice. And like you say, we're lucky enough to have those options, definitely. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We've been really fortunate to have Hugh, Bethan and Anna talking about MVA, talking about a change, talking about different options in education where we all want to thrive. And clearly the MVA community is thriving. Thank you.
Thank you.